Right. Good morning. So, as I mentioned earlier, please send your names, full names, to me through this chat facility, right? Chatting feature. Okay. So, in the previous class, we discussed about URLs. So, parts of URLs. I hope that you all understood all those parts which can be in a URL. At the same time, you all have the ability to understand those terms, right? So before we proceed to the next part, let me show one thing. Right, look here. I told you that domain name is an English text or English string of text, which can represent IP address, right? So everything is clear. But I have to mention one thing. If you want a domain name, you are the person who has to select your domain name. Assume that you want to publish a website for your institution. So definitely you have to get a domain name. So deciding or selecting the domain name, totally up to you, right? You can decide. If it is, assume you have that company in the name of XYZ, so you may go with xyzcompany.com or xyz institution.com or something, right? So we can select that. But first of all, we have to decide whether that domain name is already taken or not, because sometimes that domain name that you want has already been taken. So in this instance, you cannot take it. For example, can you give facebook.com for your website? No. Can you give google.lk for your website? No, because those domain names are already in use. They are already taken. So first of all, you have to confirm whether your expected domain name is available to use or not. That must be important. After that, if it is free, if it is available, then you can approach some of the authorities. Mostly, there must be domain registries in countries, in every country, even Sri Lanka. If you want LK, right, like xyz.lk, you have to go to the Sri Lanka domain registry. That is the authorized institution. Even some of the agents and some other sub registries can be there, but you have to approach those registries, and then only you can register your domain, because you have to pay for domain, right? They are not free, you have to pay that. Okay, so try to understand. This may be very useful for your practical life, but not for exam, right? So I will show you one thing. Listen to me. So here, this is one of the website. There may be many, right? There may be many websites used for searching a domain's availability, right? You can search whether your expected domain name is available to use. So go, you can type in Google, right? Like domain availability or checking domain availability or something. Type that in Google and visit to one website. So no need to remember that, domain name, right? So I'm here. Look here, there is a box, right? There is a box given. You have to type the domain name that you want, right? And press the enter key, or there is a button called go, right? Just click it. So I want like xschool.com, right? I want this domain name, xschool.com. And now I press the enter key, and it will search the domain names and finally show the result. Look here, still searching. Look here, sorry, xschool.com is unavailable, which means someone or some organization have already taken that, right? So, but it suggests some of the others. Look here, xschool.space, xschool.online, xschool.store, xschool.site. What are they? They are other domain names. com is taken, but these are top level domain name. Online we didn't discuss so many top level. We discussed only the most frequently, right? Com, org, net. But these are top level domain. These are available. Even if you try, right? If you try google.lk, right? Type that google.lk. Now you all know that google.lk is already in use, right? So it will be unavailable, right? You will get a message. Look here, sorry, google.lk is unavailable. And suggestions are there, right? So look at them. You have some suggestions. If you want this price also there, right? The price for this domain name also listed. So I can type one more thing. See, this is, right? This is the domain name of our institution. So I type ictaver.com and press the enter key. See, sorry, ictaver.com is unavailable because it is already in use. But someone can take ictaver.net, right? ictaver or they are available, right? They are still available. Anyone can register. ictaver.tech, ictaver.space, right? So this is how you have to go, or you have to search your domain names before you select one of them. So once, see, if I want, or if you want ict.net, you can register that, right? Here it's online, so it is still possible to purchase that. Okay, but for LK, you have to visit to the Sri Lanka domain registry if you want LK domain, right? These are not country top level domain names, these are generic TLDs. But if you want country TLD, you have to visit to that particular institution, Sri Lanka domain registry directly or to their website, right? So if you have interest, try searching them in Sri Lanka domain registry. Okay, okay. That's enough about those URLs, right? Okay, let me continue. Right, in the last class we started to discuss servers. Just take a minute to recall what we had on the other day, right? So servers are nothing, they are special computers which can provide services to the other computers, right? Other computers are called clients. So the computer which provides service is called server, right? So we have many many servers, but to you, 3 servers are important, right? So first server is web server, the second one is mail server, the third one is DNS server. I have already explained about web server, but again, take a quick recap, right? Look here. So I mentioned that web servers store the web pages and send them to whom? To the users, right? So even maybe minutes ago, you have watched or you have seen a website on my screen, right? So what happened there? That particular web page was saved in that web server. I don't know where it is, right? But when I typed that URL, immediately it came to my monitor. How it's possible? My computer sent a request, right, to that one. So as a result of that request, that particular server sent the page, right? So this is web server storing and distributing web pages. It would be useful if you understand this this diagram. I didn't show this diagram on the other day. Listen to me. Right, look here. This is right. This is your computer. This one is your computer. So you just open your web browser. This is your web browser, and straight away you type the URL, right? http:// and things like www.facebook.com, right? You type it. Then what happens? Your computer sends a request to server. In my case, if it is Facebook, there is a request sent to Facebook web server. What happens then? That Facebook web server transfers or sends that requested web page to my computer. This is also me, right? This is similar, right? Both are there, both are same. This is also same. So this is web page. We used to call that as HTTP response. I will explain today HTTP response, which means web page, right? Web page is there. This is web page, hello world or something that is displayed on the web page. So what is the role of this web server? Storing as well as distributing the web pages. Okay, right. So the second one is a mail server, right? So it is another server. So now you all can understand that it is a computer, right? It is also a computer and provides services. But maybe the type of service provided by this server makes a difference, right? Because earlier web server, right, provided the web pages as a service. But definitely mail server cannot provide web pages to the clients. So what is the role of the mail server? It's very simple. Mail server keeps the emails, right? We know emails. Later at the end of this unit we will discuss. Emails are saved in this email server and they are transferred or they are distributed to client computers. Right? In the previous instance, web pages are kept in web servers, right? But here, web pages are not kept. Your emails, right? Your mails are kept in such servers. They are called mail servers, right? Not only storing emails, as well as sending them to the clients, to the users. That is the main role of mail server. Okay, it would be better if I take a practical scenario, then only you can understand. Listen to me carefully, right? Right, think about the day-to-day life mail transferring. I'm talking about mail, not email, right? Normal post, normal mail. The mail which we send through post office, right? I'm talking about that normal procedure, manual procedure. So what happens? Think about that normal procedure. See, whenever we want to send a post to the other person in another part of the world, we have to go to the nearest post office and put that, mail or what we call post. What happens then? That particular post office will move my post or my mail to another place. Assume that I send that to a person who is in Colombo, right? So now my mail or my post has to be transferred to Colombo main post office. So now what happens? My mail has been moved from one post office to another. Now it is in Colombo post office. So if it is in the nearest city in Colombo, right, it may be sent to the sub post office or some other post offices, and then after that they must be verified and sent to the particular recipient or receiver. So whenever we send mails in our day-to-day life, this is the procedure. Even if you send to the abroad or wherever, it will be the same. Sometimes your mail will move to so many post offices, but definitely at the end, your mail will reach the right destination, which means your receiver, your recipient. This is exactly same in computer, in this email. So what happens when we send an email to another person? Listen to me. Look at this diagram. Keep an eye on this diagram. So when we send an email to, this is you, right? This is me or you, sender. So when we send an email to another person, first of all, it will be sent to one mail server. This may be anywhere in the world, right? So this seems to be your nearest post office, right? So assume that it is Jaffna post office. Then what happens? Your receiver is somewhere in the world, right? So now it will be moved to another mail server which is related or which is closer to recipient. So this mail server seems to be the post office which is in Colombo, because that is very closer to your recipient in Colombo, right? So this is similar to Colombo post office. And what happens then? That mail server sends that mail to the recipient. So in my practical example, Colombo post office sent that message or that post to the recipient. Here there are two mail servers displayed, but there may be many, more than two, right? So now think about the role of these two mail servers. They keep the mail, and as well as they verify the mail and distribute them to the clients. These are clients, right? This is one client, this is another client. So this is the simple idea. Mail servers store the emails and transfer them to email users. If you can understand this diagram, it would be better, right? So this is mail server. So let's take the third one, that may be the most important one in terms of examinations purposes, right? So we have to understand this DNS server. This is called domain name system server. Domain name system server, DNS server, right? So it would be better to take the description which I have given on the screen first, right? So DNS translates the domain names into IP addresses. I repeat it, DNS, which means domain name system server, translates the domain names into IP addresses. We can use the word convert the domain names into IP address, right? DNS converts the domain names into IP address. Both are correct. Look here, for examination, knowing or remembering this description is more than enough, right? So you are not, expected to remember much things. You are expected to remember only this idea, converting the domain name into IP address. But look here, as a student, remembering this small description alone is actually, is useless, right? Because here you cannot get anything, right? Yes, you can understand, translate or convert the domain name into IP. So you should understand the reason why a domain name should be converted into IP, or how it is converted into IP. So those things actually important for your practical life, because inevitably we all use internet nowadays, we all use websites nowadays. So it is important to understand this small description. So let me explain. I need some time to explain, so wait, I want my time. So once I finish, you may if you have any question, you may text it, right? Listen to me, I will give some time. So take a look at this small diagram, right? So this is a user, right? This is a user who uses the web browser. That's why I put that Google Chrome's icon. So this is user. He opens or she opens the web browser, right? So here I put the DNS server. I will explain about DNS server, right? And here we have web server. You already learned the web server. So web server kept what? Web pages, right? Inside of a web server, there are web pages available, right? Look here. Now, this user wants to see the Facebook website on his screen, right? He wants to see the Facebook homepage on this screen, or in other words, on the web browser, okay? So what is the first step to be taken by him? He has to type the URL, right? He has to type the URL. What is it? http://www.facebook.com, right? But even though it is a URL, but you have to understand that domain name is the most important part. Why? Domain name is the IP. The remaining parts actually not reflected the IP, right? HTTP or www. So even if you miss, or if you don't type HTTP www, your browser can fetch that particular website. Facebook.com alone can be typed. Even you can try this in your computer, right? Don't type the whole URL, HTTP www. That is not important. Type the domain name alone, because now you all know that domain name represents the IP. My computer needs IP because when my computer gets IP of the web server, then the communication is possible, right? So understand this, domain name is enough, right? So now listen to me. I'm going to type facebook.com in my computer, right? So what happens when we type? Look, listen to me carefully, right? So I type this one, facebook.com in my computer. So once or as soon as I type, there is a request, or that particular domain name will be sent to DNS server, right? That domain name which I have typed is sent to DNS server. What happens then? Now my browser asks this DNS server, right, saying that I don't know the IP address of the facebook.com domain name. Please give me the IP address of facebook.com if you have. I repeat it. My computer, my browser doesn't know the IP of the facebook.com, so it wants the help, right? It wants the help. So to get the help, my browser sends the domain name to DNS server. DNS server also connected in the internet, right? Maybe in a region, maybe in ISP. So it sends the domain name to DNS and request the DNS server to give what? Give the IP address of this domain name, right? So it asks to give the IP address of the domain name. Okay, right, listen. So what happens then? As a reply, this DNS server sends that IP address back to my computer, back to my browser. So my browser sends the facebook.com to DNS server and asks the DNS server to provide the IP address. Now IP address is given to browser. Okay, right. Now IP address has been taken. What happens then? So since IP address is known to my computer, now it knows the location, or it knows the destination of the web server, right? Because my computer also connected in internet, web server also connected in internet. So when two computers are connected in internet, it is possible for communication, right? So now my computer got the IP. So using the IP, my computer finds the destination or location of the web server. So straight away my computer sends a request to Facebook server. Assume this is Facebook server, saying that please send the Facebook homepage. That is HTTP request. It is a request for fetching a web page, right? So HTTP request. Now the request reached the Facebook server. Once it is reached, it has to reply, right? That Facebook server has to reply. So it replies with what? That Facebook website, right? So that would be the fourth one. Now the Facebook homepage will be sent to my browser. That is HTTP response. It doesn't. It means the Facebook homepage, right? HTTP response means it is a response for your request, right? So in this instance, the page is sent to the browser from Facebook server. Listen again, I will explain again. So first of all, I want Facebook website. It may be any website, but I take Facebook for example. So I want Facebook. So I open my web browser and straight away I type facebook.com. If you want, you can type the remaining part, HTTP, www, but for me, facebook.com is enough. Even for you, facebook.com is enough, right? So when we type facebook.com, my browser has some sort of confusion because it doesn't know where the Facebook server is located. So now my browser needs help. So straight away, it is asking a help from DNS server. So it sends the domain name to DNS server and asking the IP address, right? So now DNS server sends that IP to my browser. So when IP address is taken, it is possible to identify the server location, right? So straight away, my browser sends a request for fetching the web page to the web server. As a result of that request, that particular web page is sent to the client computer. This is me, right? This is you, client computer. So this happens whenever you type a URL to fetch web page, right? It may be Google, it may be Yahoo, it may be YouTube, right? It may be Zoom. So whenever you type, it happens, right? But it happens in the background, and also it happens within a fraction of a second, right? Even you cannot realize that these things are happening in the background. It goes very fast. You are unable to, realize anything. Right? Okay, now come to the DNS server, right? I have to explain about DNS server. See, this browser sends the domain name and asks the DNS server to give the IP. Yes, in my example, this DNS server sends that IP. So now think about the role of the DNS server. What happened in the DNS? So what happened? DNS server keeps all the domain names and their respected IP addresses inside. Even if you can imagine that as a table, right? It has domain names in one side, and also the related IP addresses are kept. So when a client computer requested for an IP address, so first of all, domain is sent to the DNS. So now DNS checks whether this domain name is available or not. So in my example, I assumed that the domain name is available. There may be instances where domain name is not available, right? I will explain. So domain name is available. So since domain name is available, that is facebook.com, now DNS checks their IP. Their IP is there. Immediately, it sends that IP to the client. So now listen to my definition for DNS server, or listen to my description for DNS server. What did I give for DNS server? Translating domain names into IP addresses. So in this instance, facebook.com has been translated or has been converted into 90, 67, 90, 156. So that is the role of DNS server. Have you understood? It would be better if you remember the whole things, right? You need to remember the steps, right? So here the first step, then the sending the IP is the second step. Then there is a request for web page, that is HTTP request, that is the third step. Finally, the web page is fetched. That would be the final step. So there are 4 steps, right? 4 steps to be taken in all the instances where a user hits a URL on the web browser, right? Okay, so I will show you one more example. Listen to me. Look here. Okay, I take it again. Assume that, okay, it sends the domain name. Suppose if the domain name is not available here, it is possible, right? Because there are billions of domain names possible. So you cannot expect all the domain names in DNS server. There are new domains created maybe in a minute, every minute, right? So you cannot expect a DNS server. There may be many DNS server around the world, but you cannot expect a DNS server to keep all the domain names which are in use. So suppose if facebook.com is not available here, what happens? Will you get any error message? Will the web server doesn't respond? So no, right? So generally you can get a web page even the domain name is not available in a DNS server. So we never get such experience when we hit or when we type a domain name. If you type domain name like facebook.com on your web browser, definitely Facebook website will be there. If you type your school domain name on your web browser address bar, definitely it will be there. If your internet is strong, if it is stable, definitely you will get the website. But it doesn't mean that your domain name, your school domain name or other domain name are kept in the DNS server. Sometimes it may not be there. So what happens if it is not in a DNS server? I will explain that in another diagram. Look here, right? I have downloaded from this website. It may not be clear, but you can still understand. Listen to me, right? So this is user, right? User. So now the user types something, right? The domain name. Look here. He types howstuffworks.com. Howstuffswork.com. That is the domain name, right? Even though he types the whole URL, but take a look at only the domain name. Right? That is enough. Okay. This is the first step. What happens then? This domain name should be sent to the DNS server, right? Nearest DNS server. This is the DNS. So now this computer sends that domain name to DNS and asking for IP address. Listen to this. The domain name howstuffworks.com is not in my database. Oh hash. I will try another DNS server. What is it? Now this DNS server replies to my computer. How? Sorry, I don't have this domain name in my database or in my hash memory. You know hash memory, right? Hash memory. But I will try this domain name in another DNS server, right? So it goes to another DNS server. It doesn't show any error message or something on my computer. Now this DNS server goes to another DNS. Have you understood? Now that first DNS, right? The first DNS asks the second DNS saying that I don't have this DNS domain howstuffworks.com. Do you have that domain name in your database? Right? I repeated. The first DNS asks the second DNS about the availability of howstuffworks.com. Now assume this second DNS server has it. Right, that second DNS server has the domain name. So what happens then? That DNS, assume this is the IP. So it says that it is 70.42.251.42. Right, that is the IP. So that IP will be back to the first DNS. Right. So once it is sent to the first DNS, this DNS server puts that in the database. Or in other words, it updates that table, right? Because it has domain names and IP addresses, but unfortunately that howstuffworks.com is not there, right? Now it is received from another DNS server, so immediately it will be updated here, right? And then that requested requested IP will be sent to my computer. Now my computer got 70.42.251.42 IP address. So once it is there, right, once my computer got that IP, it knows the location of the web server. So again, it sends the request to web server. This is web server, right? This blue color one is web server. So it sends the request to web server. Finally, web server has to respond with the web page, right? That is HTTP response, right? Web page is there. It happens every time when you type the URL. So now I think it's very clear. Not all the time your domain name is available in your nearest DNS server. Sometimes the most popular domain names are definitely there: facebook.com, google.lk, ebay.com, right? So because they are always used by the users, but some of them may not be there. In this instance, it would be fetched from another DNS service. Have you understood? This is enough about DNS server. For you, right, as I mentioned earlier, for someone who is in grade 11, is not expected to remember such big things, right? Maybe this is more than enough to you, right? Even I think once it was asked in the past paper, right? This one, they put the diagram and they put these arrows, and even those 4 names are listed, but they didn't put them in this place, right? They put like 1, 2, 3, 4, and as a separate list they put these words. and you have, or you were requested to order them, right? So Facebook there, IP there, HTTP request there, and HTTP response there, but as a separate list. Here numbers only given. So you have to put those words in the right number. So for filling such thing, definitely this idea is important, right? So these are the three servers which we have to study. First one, web server, saving and distributing web pages. Second one, mail server, keeping emails and sending them to the mail users. Third one, DNS server, translating a domain name into IP address. Okay, right. So that's all about servers. Now we have to take another one, protocol, right? I have to explain the term protocol. Right, remember we already discussed about the term protocol. Now you all can define the term protocol, because when we discussed about URL, right, we discussed, or we clearly defined the word protocol. So what protocol is? Set of rules used in a network or in internet for exchanging information, right? Both the sender computer and the receiver end must use some sort of rules for exchanging things, right? They are protocols. On an internet or in a network, there are hundreds, even thousands of protocols used, because as we mentioned, or as we discussed earlier, whenever you communicate with other computers on the internet or on a network, the type of message that you pass may be different. Sometimes it's a video, sometimes it's a file, sometimes it's an email. So you need to exchange various type of data all the time. So to change or to transfer these different types of data, you cannot use a single rule, one rule for exchanging. Maybe for exchanging web page, you need a rule. For exchanging, emails, you need another one. For exchanging things like files, right, video file, audio file, you need another one. So we have hundreds or thousands of protocols, right? But you are expected to understand 5 protocols in grade level, right? But I have listed 6, but I think your book doesn't include HTTPS, but I put it because HTTPS almost same, right? So that's why I put HTTPS also, right? Okay, so hope I explained the first 2 in the previous class. So when I explain about domain name, I explained both of them. So no need to take them as depth, but I try to take a small introduction. So what is HTTP? What does HTTP stand for? Hypertext Transfer Protocol, right? Hypertext Transfer Protocol is HTTP. What is it? So look at the name. That name itself has the meaning, right? Hypertext Transfer Protocol. This is how I explained earlier too. It is a protocol, which means set of rules for transferring, right? For transferring, exchanging what? Hypertext documents. What are hypertext documents? Web page contents, text, images, videos, audios, animations, hyperlinks, all of them are hypertext documents. So HTTP means it is a protocol, it is a set of rules for exchanging hypertext documents such as images, text, videos, audios. That is HTTP. So now imagine whenever we type http://www.facebook.com or any other domain name, what happens? Facebook particular web page is fetched to my computer. So what are inside of that Facebook web page? It has text, it has images, it has videos. So it is the rule related to transferring web pages, or other words, transferring those hypertext documents. That's why we put HTTP in front of what? A URL, right? HTTPS. This is almost same as HTTP, but look at them. There is a letter S at the end, which means secure. So here also things are same. It is also a set of rules for exchanging web pages, right? Web page contents, but more importantly, it is happening in a secure manner, right? So that the things which I exchange will be secure all the time. So I mentioned that the URLs which start from HTTPS have a padlock symbol at the beginning, right? So that padlock tells that it is secure, right? So listen to me. So it is always important to remember these differences between HTTPS and HTTP. The websites which are always dealing with public may have HTTPS because all the time they exchange some of the most sensitive data, right? They transfer some credit card numbers, maybe some of the financial transaction happen. So it is important, right? I explained, right? So come to the FTP, File Transfer Protocol. This is another role. Even look at the name that tells the story, right? I don't even speak a single word. File Transfer Protocol. What does it say? It is a protocol, so which means set of rules for transferring what? Files. For again, I tell you, for a person who is in grade 11, this is enough, right? It is a protocol for transferring file. But it would be better if you understand further, right? Because you know, whenever we study, we have to understand properly, right? Not only for examination purpose, you have to understand those things for your life, right? So that's why I keep mentioning some of the very useful things, right? Let's take some of the advanced things. So let me introduce this in a little bit of depth manner, right? So even though it is a protocol for transferring files, we should understand how the files are transferred or from one computer. So all the time, look here, we are users, we are clients. We cannot be servers, right? All the time we are clients. We transfer files to servers. Sometimes servers transfer files to us. Let me take one example. Assume you got or you have seen a video in YouTube, right? So you watched a video on YouTube and now you want to download it. You know, download, right? You want to bring that from there to your computer. So now it seems that the video is on YouTube, but in fact that video is where? In the web server where the YouTube website is located. So I can say now, because now we know the thing, we understand the thing, so technically we can say that that video is in the YouTube server. We don't know where it is. So now I want that particular video, which means a file, right, from there to my computer. That is called download, right? Hope this term is very familiar for you. That is download, because we are transferring a file from one computer to another. So in this instance, it is from YouTube server, that is a computer, right, to another computer, which means my client computer. That is download. So now for downloading such file, they need some rules. They are file transfer protocols. In some cases, we want to send a file from our computer to server, right? We want to transfer a file from here to another computer. That is also possible, right? So think about one instance. See, I have shown you the website of my institution earlier. So assume that I have your marks list, right? I have typed your marks list in my computer. Now I want to send that mark list to the server where my website is saved. Have you understood? In other words, I'm going to publish, or I'm going to add that mark list in my institution website. So now look here, that marked list is nothing. It's a file. That file has to be moved from my computer to a server, right? Because my website is in a server. So this is totally opposite to the one which we discussed earlier. So this time my file is going from my computer to the web server. This is called upload, right? Upload. So for this upload purpose also, file transfer protocol is important, right? So this is the simple idea. Transferring file means transferring from client to web server and also server to clients, right? So this is FTP protocol. Right, then simple mail transfer protocol. Again, the name tells everything. Look there, simple mail transfer protocol. Even you can forget the word simple. Take a look at the remaining phrases. Mail transfer protocol. What does it say? It's a protocol which means set of rules for transferring emails. That is more than enough to do, right? Transferring mails, right, between servers and clients, right? So to transfer mail between servers and clients, there must be rules. They are SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol. But again, it would be better if you know some further information about SMTP, right? So look here, even though I mentioned that it is transferring emails, if you take that as very closer, then it would be this SMTP actually used for sending the mails to other people, right? Or sending the mail to other mail servers. It never used for receiving the emails. For example, assume I'm the person who send the mail to other people. So in this case, my computer has to use SMTP for sending it. Look at the phrase, or look at the word which I put in red color. So it is only for sending the email. For receiving the email, the mail servers have to use another protocol that is called POP3, Post Office Protocol version 3. So that's why we put POP3, Post Office Protocol. But since that protocol is not included in our syllabus, I skip it. Even you don't need to worry about that. But it would be better if you remember them, because even your book described this as a rule for exchanging email or something. But in fact, actually, it is wrong, because it is not exchanging. It is only for sending the email to the other computers or other servers, right? Because for receiving purpose, there is another protocol available, that is POP3, but this is enough, okay? So it would be better if you remember the word send, right? So it is a rule for sending emails, that is SMTP. So up to now, we discussed some protocols, started from HTTP. It's a protocol for transferring hypertext documents. Second one, HTTPS. It is a protocol for transferring hypertext documents in a secure manner. Third one, file transfer protocol. It's a protocol for transferring files from or between a client computer and a server. Number 4, SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. It's a protocol used for sending mails to the other computers or other servers, right? Not for receiving, only for sending, right? Now we have to take ICMP, which is Internet Control Message Protocol, right? Internet Control Message Protocol. Let me explain in a very brief manner. So look here, when we send a data from one computer to another, assume you are sending a data from your computer to another computer, right? It may be any data, right? You are trying to transfer, you are trying to send. So suppose on its way, the data might be corrupted or might be lost, right? Even though you have sent that, maybe while it is going, it can be lost, right? That is possible. So at that instance, right? At that particular instant, there should be an information about that lost, or there should be an information about that error must be sent or must be transferred to the sender computer, which means to me. Then only my computer knows that the data is not sent. I have to send it again. So to send such error messages or to send that such messages, ICMP is in place. So what is the role of ICMP? ICMP sends such error messages, so which we call error reports, right? ICMP sends those error reports about the data corrupted or about the data lost to the sender computer, because it is not needed for transferring to the such information to receivers, because receiver has to receive. Sender is the person who sends. So when a data is lost, it is important to inform to whom? About the sender. Then only the sender can resend it. So this is the role of ICMP. So ICMP sends those error reports to the sender when the data are lost or are corrupted on its way. Even if the data are successfully transferred to the destination, right? Suppose if the data successfully transferred to the destination, this ICMP informs that the data was successfully transferred, right? Then only your sender knows that it is not important to resend it, right? So that is ICMP. Have you understood? ICMP is a protocol for sending error reports, right, about the data lost or about the data corruption to the sender computer, right? So that is very useful, because if it doesn't happen, sender doesn't know whether the data reached the destination or whether the data not reached the destination. So such informations are not available for sender if such protocols are not in use, right? So this is ICMP. So we have to take one more, we have to take one more protocol, that is TCP/IP. TCP/IP, Transmission Control Protocol, right? A Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol. Look there are two protocols joined. TCP is one protocol, Transmission Control Protocol. IP, Internet Protocol, is another. So they work as a combination. So I will explain about those rules, right? TCP/IP. So it's enough for today. Today we take only the servers, types of servers, as well as some of the most important protocols, right? So again, try spending some time and study everything clearly, right? If you have doubt, you can ask or you can text me later. I will provide better feedback or better reply maybe in the next class, right? So it's enough for today. We can take it again in the next class, right? So thank you.